Watch I do, Buckaroos. How the heck are you? A live hump day. My probably one and only. I may do one later. Hard to tell, but I do got to work tomorrow. So anyway, but I thought I ought to do at least one hump day video with you. Um, I've had this one for a little bit. So Missouri Loves Company. It's their 9.5% quad. It's been so hot. I'm not sure why they popped out with it when they did, but nevertheless, I mean, I'll give you. I'm not going to read these. That's a list of the breweries that took part in this. A good part of them, a good percentage, I mean to say, of the Missouri breweries. There's a few missing in there, but a good lot of them anyway. Using my Springfield Brewing Company glass. It's a nice version of the classic Belgian style. I like the quad style, but yeah, I kind of got to be in the mood for it. I mean, it is big, it's rich, it's going to kill your palate. So you got to be ready for it, man. It is. I mean, this is a pint of 9.5%, so it's a one and done. But I did decide to pair it with a Missouri whiskey. This is the Bourbon Rubenesque single barrel cast strength from Wood Hat out of New Florence, Missouri. I've never been to that distillery. I really would like to go there at some point. I didn't realize how close I was when I was in Washington, Missouri. Last April, I went to Pinckney Bend in New Florence, and I was really close. I didn't realize how close I would have stopped at the time, but anyways, I digress. This is a nice quad. The body feels just a tad light. I'm not sure why I'm saying that because this is 9.5%, so there's a lot going on. But yeah, the body just I would personally like it to be just a tad more viscous. However, that's just me. Not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I like a quad just to be a little chewier. But the flavors are all in the right spot. You might pick up some dark fruit notes, and that's really between you and your taste buds, right? There's going to be folks that tell you, well, you're going to taste this, that, or the other. The fact of the matter is, if you don't eat those things, you're never going to taste those things. So the obvious, I mean, you might pick out some raisin, some dark cherry, some date and or fig. Again, that depends on you and your taste buds. If you don't eat those things, you're never going to taste them. Uh, Man, this is a nice bourbon. I bought this. I bought this from somebody I thought was a friend at the time. And I was trying to more create some goodwill than anything because I don't buy on the secondary market. Even though this was technically the secondary markets, I didn't pay over sticker price for it. Right? I didn't pay over the retail price for the whiskey, so I was okay with that. And at the time, I was trying to make nice with a certain bourbon group in the area. And it was shortly after I bought these products that I was kicked out of the group. But anyway, that's a story for another day. But yeah, I mean, I was trying to create some goodwill. I later found out that this person sold this to me because they didn't like it was unopened when I bought it, but they didn't like the distillery. And I have to disagree. I mean, I think there's a lot of snobbery around bourbon guys. I always find it interesting that the folks that will just preach craft beer, craft beer, craft beer won't do the same when it comes to whiskey or wine, right? When it comes to whiskey or wine, they say buy the big guys. And a lot of that's because some of them are getting a kickback, and especially folks that are dealing on the secondary market. A lot of these folks are buying products at a reduced price or at a good price, and then selling them for 3 or 4 times what they're worth. And in some cases, they're getting free product and then in turn selling it for more than it's worth. And in my opinion, that is exactly what's wrong with secondary market and bourbon folks these days. Is quit being a lemming, quit buying product that you know you're paying more than what it's worth. I'm trying to remember what I paid for this product. It was about $50 a bottle, which isn't bad for a cask strength product. And again, I mostly bought it because at the time I thought I was creating some goodwill, and I knew I wasn't paying over sticker price, right? I wasn't paying over retail because I know what these products go at retail outlets, so I knew I wasn't paying more than retail. But let that be a cautionary tale for you. A lot of folks that want to masquerade as your friends aren't until they get what they want from you, and then they're gone. So I will tell you, not this particular bottle, but the first time I had the bourbon Rubenesque was back in about 2014, and I must tell you that I didn't like it. And I don't know how much has changed since then, or if it's just me that's changed. Maybe my taste buds weren't ready for it at that moment. But what I will tell you now is I really enjoy this product, even though the friend that sold it to me, he did not. You know, there's no accounting for taste. They are big. They're bold. A lot of these smaller distilleries aren't necessarily taking shortcuts, but they're doing what they need to do to survive. Vanessa, how are you? Um, they use smaller barrels. They add oak stave or in some cases chips to achieve a final destination before some of those big guys. So someone might say, well, Tom, if that works, everybody would be doing it. The truth is that's just not true. And you can use craft beer for that. I mean, there's a lot of things craft breweries do that allow them to get to an end product that the macros aren't doing, and it's not necessarily if it worked, everybody would be doing it. It's more of a case where it's just not feasible for large distilleries to do this, but it makes sense for smaller distilleries to do it. And in a lot of cases, these smaller distilleries aren't only using what means they have, but they're using better products to start with. So I do like Wood Hat Distillery. I do like the products they have. I do love this particular product. This cask is just absolutely gorgeous. Size and scale matters. Yes, it does. Uh, so tell my wife. I digress. I digress. But I think a lot of folks get too hung up with names, right? Especially bourbon guys. It just frustrates me, or it just confuses me mostly that the same folks that will tell you to always buy small when it comes to beer won't use that same logic when it comes to whiskey or wine. All these smaller distilleries are using fine quality ingredients and they're achieving that at an earlier age. And bourbon's kind of a different animal, to be honest with you, anyway. Whereas you always assume a scotch, especially a single malt scotch, the older it gets, the better it is. Um, Bourbon doesn't need to achieve that same age level to be at its peak. What I'm saying is a 21-year-old scotch is wonderful. A 21-year-old uh, Irish whiskey is wonderful, but a bourbon doesn't necessarily need to get to 21 to achieve its peak, depending on what you're using, the ingredients you're using, your aging methods. It might achieve its peak at 4, 6, 8, or even 10 years. Yeah, I kind of do the same, Vanessa, but I don't buy as many big guys as I used to. Um, I try to really focus on the small distilleries. Anytime I can find a small distillery product, I will buy it. I'm not buying as much of the big guys because they don't need my help. And a lot of the problem is a lot of bourbon folks tend to be lemmings, right? If somebody says or somebody writes an article that, well, this is going to become allocated or that's going to become allocated, that bourbon bourbon lemmings will flock to the stores to buy those products, and all of a sudden, a $25 bourbon becomes a $50 bourbon or a $200 bourbon on the secondary market. And I just won't buy into that hype. Because if I'm going to spend X amount on whiskey, if I've got this much money to spend, I'm going to look at that shelf and say, okay, what's the best value? And that's what I will buy. Not necessarily what's on sale, not necessarily what's the cheapest, but what's the best value? What makes the most sense? I'm not going to spend $200 for a bourbon that should be only $50. If I've got $200 to spend, I'm going to buy four of the best $50 bourbons on the shelf. And I got to tell you, I'm getting near the end of this particular bottle. And I got to be honest with you, the more I buy or the more I drink this whiskey, the more I enjoy it. It isn't as sweet as many bourbons, but it Rubenesque. It is big, it's bold, it's in your face. But at no point does it become harsh or hard to drink. It never gets to that boozy category, even though it is a cask strength. And I know that's a tough point with some. Some will always assume that anything over a certain proof is going to be boozy. To me, the word boozy implies that there's a flaw in there somewhere, or it's hard to drink. And this is not hard to drink by any means, as you can see as I take a drink here. I mean, there's no face made, there's no harsh, there's no nothing. It's a very approachable bourbon, even at cask strength. Now, even at cask strength, yeah, if you want to do something with it, go for it. If you want to make it a cocktail, you want to add a little ice, hey, do your thing. And I've experimented with this bottle as I've gone through it, but it is obviously easy to drink neat as I'm showing you. And it does pair well with this big quad. It pairs well with this big quad, man. As I'm working through all of my inventory, inventory, that's a funny word, because I don't really have an inventory. There's times I have several bottles on hand that are unopened. There's times I have none. And this is going to be one of those times. I don't, the folks that want to brag, they want to show you these big pictures. I have 300 bourbons. Well, why? If you know, I everything I buy is with the intent to drink. And if you're not buying your product with the intent to drink it at some point, well, you're exactly what's wrong. You are the problem. If you're buying a product with the intent to sell it for more than it's worth, yeah, you're the problem. If I've got one bourbon in the house for 20, everything I have is intended to be opened at some point. I'm never thinking I'm going to sell this to somebody for more than it's worth, or I'm never thinking I want to show this to everybody online with the intent of never drinking it. I'm going to invite everybody over to my house, show them the bottle, and never open it. That kind of thing just always irritates me. If you're going to brag about certain products you have, intend on sharing them. Don't be a dick. Anyway, I digress. And Fletcher. Oh, A lot of vanilla initially. I wasn't going into many points earlier, but I want to talk about some of this whiskey here as I pour the rest of my quad into that glass here. Yeah, a lot of vanilla initially, lot of oak notes as well. You're going to find a lot of those fruit notes we talked about earlier in the middle. And it really depends on how you feel it, right? For me, I'm picking up some raisins, some dark cherry, some overripe plum, but it's not going to be unusual for you to pick up some date and or fig or other dark fruits. Yeah, again, like I said earlier, you're not going to taste what you know. A lot of big spice in the finish. So I use a lot of spice. I'm familiar with a lot of spice notes. So I'm going to pick up more spice notes than fruit notes because that's what I know, right? So yeah, the obvious is cinnamon, but for me, I'm getting a lot of allspice, some ginger, some nutmeg, some clove. Oh man, that's gorgeous. Yeah, the thing is, yeah, I don't know. I first had a bourbon Rubeness, obviously not the same bottle, but a bourbon Rubeness back in 2014, I believe it was, and I did not like it. I did not like it at all. And when I bought this one, I bought it with the idea that I knew I didn't like it before. But again, I was trying to create some goodwill. But as I delved into this file, I've really enjoyed it. And the more I get into it, the more I enjoy it. I was thinking my palate might not have been ready for it at that moment. And again, it was a different bottle. Because obviously, I mean, even at this cask proof, this is obviously a very easy whiskey to drink. As you see me making no face at all as I'm drinking this. Again, that was easy. No harshness, no nothing. Just beautiful whiskey. Anyway, I am Tom the Whiskey Whisperer, Whiskey Evangelist, prolific whiskey drinker, purveyor of wisdom, and as I finish up this quad, let me show you this Missouri Misery Loves Company. A lot of Missouri breweries. I'm not going to read them off. I'm just going to put that in front. So if you want to freeze that frame and look at it, you can. I am. I am Tom the Beer Whisperer, Beer Evangelist, prolific beer drinker, purveyor was the man. Ah, cheese biscuits and gravy. All around good guys. Lunch. Have a good one, guys.